It's my pleasure at this event each year as president of the Alumni Association to be able to introduce the president of the college to talk about the state of the college, because invariably when I do that, I'm able to introduce someone who is talking about a state that is ever improving. Last year, as incoming president, because Pam Holgren, my predecessor, was out of town, I had the pleasure of introducing Dan Weiss. It's my pleasure to be able to do it again this year and to do it in a special way. For the last 8 years, Dan, as president of the college, has been one of the people who has been one of the real drivers in that ever-improving state. And it's my pleasure as we bid Dan farewell, on behalf of the Alumni Association, to not only introduce him, to be able to say a little thank you. So Dan, if you could come up a second. 25,000 of us are very appreciative of what you have done over the last 8 years. And so I'm going to duck behind you and take out part of the thank you.
I think it's a new car, but I'm not sure. Hey, pretty good.
Dan must think Oprah is here. Dan, as you move on to your new location, we hope that when you're sitting in your office and you're sort of thinking about either your scholarship or the challenges that are always faced at a small liberal arts college, you will hunker down as you have there and remember us. In addition to things that are tangible, we wanted to do something additional, a little more special. So on behalf of the Alumni Association, in memory of your dad, whom you recently lost, we'll be giving a donation to the Colon Cancer Research Foundation in your dad's name and memory. So it is my pleasure, unfortunately for the last time, to welcome Dan Weiss to talk about the state of Lafayette. Dan.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. It's great to be here, and I'm very grateful to so many of you for all of your support over the years. This is indeed a very difficult and bittersweet time for me. I believe very strongly that institutional leadership needs to remain vibrant and healthy, and it's always best to leave an institution at a time of prosperity and progress, and I believe that's what's happening. I'm enormously pleased with the new appointment, and Allison Byerly and I have worked closely together over the last 6 months or so, and I believe that she's very well prepared to continue the work. She has outstanding values. She understands Lafayette well. She's very smart, and I think she'll do a wonderful job, and she has my full support. We've enjoyed a really strong relationship and look forward to continuing to work closely together in the years ahead. But I am enormously pleased to have a chance to address all of you, indeed, for my final time. I don't know where the 8 years has gone, but it has gone, and we've done a lot, and we've been through a lot together. Higher education during the last several years has undergone more change than ever in our lifetimes, and indeed, I think those days will continue for a while. So we've been through a great deal, and I'm probably most proud, if I were to reflect on what we've accomplished over the last 8 years, that during that time of duress and challenge nationally and internationally, financially, educationally, and otherwise, this college has gotten demonstrably stronger on almost every measure. That is to say, with the support of all of you, with the support of the board, our faculty, our students, our staff, we have pushed forward and advanced our strategic objectives in ways that has made a difference and that will endure. So I'm very pleased about that, and I think better days are still ahead. So with that, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the state of the college with regard particularly to this year, but also to reflect on, I think, where Lafayette is more broadly than that. For various reasons, typically institutional history is written around the terms of presidents, and we are about to enter a new term in the life of this college. So I'd like to talk a little bit about where I think we are, what I think we've accomplished, and what, again, lies ahead. So as a college president, there are certain things that I think it's very important to do on a regular basis, and it is to reflect seriously and deeply about what it is we're really trying to do. There are so many exigencies in our day-to-day work here. There are so many different pressures. There are so many different things that happen. It's easy to lose sight of what's most important. What are we here to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And I gave an address to the board at our last board meeting where I talked to them about what it is that I thought we've been trying to do, what I've been trying to do over the last 8 years. And one might distill that list to 4 major themes. The first is fundamentally strengthening the academic core of the institution. I think President Rothkopf did a brilliant job of advancing the goals of the institution, making it stronger in many ways, including especially providing this institution as a platform for further progress. He often said, quite rightly, and I will say, that it should always be our aspiration that better days are ahead. And Arthur made it possible for us to realize all kinds of goals we could not have realized if his term hadn't been so successful. So our goal was to strengthen the academic core, to build programs, to do all kinds of things to make this place a stronger, more rigorous academic experience for all of our students. That was the first goal that I have thought about every day. The second is positioning this college, competitively positioning this college as a distinctive institution, distinguished particularly by the fact that we're a small liberal arts college with division-specific engineering at the highest level and Division I athletics, to position us as one of the finest institutions, small colleges in the country that is distinctive in those ways, to be recognized in that way and fundamentally to live that way every day. So everything we do, I would think about that. To what extent does it help us to move that goal forward? The third was therefore to align all of the other things we do and all of the other investments we make in facilities around those goals. Why do we engage in this activity or that activity? Does it help us to accomplish those things? And that's one reason, and I'll come to this later, why we renovated every single athletic facility on this campus in the last 8 years but one. Because if we're going to compete in athletics at Division I level, we need to do that at a level of excellence as well. And those facilities needed that work. So everything needed to align with those kinds of goals. And as a result of that, we had some difficult issues as well, where we had some challenges around alcohol use, and we had some issues with Greek life and trying to find our way forward in a collectively strong approach to what's best for our students, but it was with that goal in mind. And the fourth of these was to foster and develop the best relationship with Easton that we could imagine, and indeed, we have accomplished that. I think the relationship with the city of Easton is as strong as any town-gown relationship in the country. We're founded by the citizens of Easton. We have every reason to want to have an excellent relationship with the city. So those 4 goals are the things we have tried to accomplish. We have strategic plans, we have goals every year, but those are the things we have worried about the most. So then let me talk a little bit about what we've achieved, as I see it. Where do we stand? What have we accomplished? First of all, let's talk about the academic program. As I said earlier, it was the academic core that we were first and foremost focusing on strengthening. We have done a lot, and I'm very pleased to say that I think the academic core of this institution has never been stronger in its history, and it's very well positioned to continue to make progress. We had a faculty growth initiative underway to grow the faculty by 20%, and we are now, that means 35 new positions, in addition to the existing complement of faculty. So we have hired 20 of those 35, mostly paid for through new endowed professorships. And between those new hires and normal turnover among the faculty, something like 40+% of the faculty have been here less time than I have. And whereas what that means is that we have been able to hire faculty every time a faculty member leaves, no matter how beloved and how successful, it is an opportunity for us to do better. And we have continued to pursue the marketplace aggressively to hire the best faculty. And in this down economy, we did. We have hired people who are truly, truly outstanding, and they're here on our campus working with our students. So we've increased the size of the faculty dramatically. With that, we wanted to make sure that we had a competitive approach in hiring faculty and that we could retain them. If you're hiring the best people in the market, they have opportunities to leave, and therefore retention of faculty is a crucial goal as well. So we put in place what we call the Faculty Excellence Initiative during the strategic planning period over the last 6 to 7 years. And that initiative was intended to provide support to faculty in every way: salary, teaching load, sabbatical, research support, libraries, technology, campus infrastructure, all those things commensurate with the best colleges in the country. And I'm proud to say that we benchmark those things, and we are among the top 15 colleges in the country all colleges in the country at the level of support we provide to our faculty. We're comparing ourselves to Williams and Swarthmore and Amherst, and we're in that category. And that makes a difference in hiring those people and keeping them. So having a really strong approach to faculty support is fundamental to driving the value and quality of the experience for our students. We have modified in significant ways the curriculum. We changed the Common Course of Study for the first time in 18 years, about 2 years ago, and that leads to all kinds of new educational opportunities for our students and a revitalized curriculum. We've added programs in theater, film and media studies, environmental science, health. All kinds of new programs have revitalized the curriculum. Perhaps none as exciting as the new program that we're calling IDEAL, which is an acronym for Innovation, Design, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership. This interdisciplinary program, which was only made possible, I must say, because of new levels of cooperation between engineering faculty and arts and sciences faculty, working together to build a new initiative that allows our students to have a fundamentally interdisciplinary experience in helping to do projects related to those areas that I've just described, allowing students to work in entrepreneurship and product design. So an engineering student with an idea to develop a new business or a new product allies themselves with economics students to help with the planning and art students to help with the design to create something of enduring value. We have raised very significant funds for this initiative, and it is underway. And I predict it will be one of the great achievements of Lafayette in the next 5 to 10 years that we have this center. And if it prospers in the ways I expect that it will be a defining characteristic for us, a distinguishing characteristic. And no other school that we compete with is as well positioned to do that because of the presence of engineering here. It gives us a certain kind of leverage in this program development that's really exciting. So that initiative is underway. In staying with my theme of strengthening the academic core, we've made significant investments in engineering. We've raised significant new endowments to support engineering education. We have a new endowed directorship, and we're putting new resources into the program all the time. Again, engineering is at the center of our future in ways probably more so than in the past. We're very pleased with that. We created a new program for global studies that is now going to be housed in the new Oxley Center for Global Education, which will be constructed in the coming year. That program is funded, the building has been designed, all we're waiting for now is the trucks to show up and start digging a big hole. And within about a year or so, that building will be up, and it will be a new landmark on our campus and a monument in tangible form to our commitment to global education, which is something all of our students will need to be well-versed in and prepared to engage in. We have made new investments in the Williams Arts Campus. I'm sure many of you have heard about these over the years and you've read and followed. That work will begin in earnest as well. The first phase of transformation of that space will begin this year, and the second phase will follow after that later in this year. And 18 months from now, that whole space is going to be completely different. I'm very pleased that we have come up with a design for that complex that is innovative and exciting, that creates spaces that are perfectly suited to the programs we're going to put in them. A black box theater, a screening room, a film theater, film production space, as well as the fine arts facilities we already have down there. So we'll have this arts campus that serves both the needs of our students, the needs of our community. It will be a beautiful gateway to our campus that all the cars that drive by 22 every single day will see, and it will say something about Lafayette that therefore in the past we haven't said, our commitment to the arts and to the visibility of that aspect of the experience for all of our students. So that's exciting, and that will be underway. As a result of all those investments and commitments to the academic core, we have also seen external support for the academic programs here at new levels of accomplishment. And principally, that's in the form of grants that have been received by the college for these programs. This year we received, or I should say it was the end of last year, a Howard Hughes grant from the Howard Hughes Foundation for Medical Innovation and Science Innovation. A very small number of the leading small colleges in the country receive these, and we received one we hadn't in something like 15 years. We received that grant. We lead the nation in Goldwater scholarships. We had 3 this year. We have many Fulbrights. We've received a Beinecke. We have received very significant funding from the Mellon Foundation every year I've been president, every year. And some years it's almost $1 million a year. Very significant. That's the level of funding that they're providing to the finest colleges in the country. So we have entered a space with regard to competition for those grants and those funding kinds of support for our students and the institution that is commensurate with excellence. So I think the academic core of the institution is well positioned to continue to prosper, and we have hired an academic president in Allison Byerly. She's committed to progress on these initiatives as well, and I think we'll continue to see momentum in all kinds of ways. The second category I'd like to talk about in terms of what we've achieved is more obvious, and that is the campus. I inherited, when I arrived here, a magnificent campus. There's no question Lafayette's one of the most beautiful campuses in the country, but it had some odd limitations, including an enormous parking lot wrapped around a quad. We have now removed all those cars and created this wonderful space that if the sun shines tomorrow, you'll get to experience. And if it doesn't, you'll get to experience it anyway. You'll just be wet. It is a really different take on what the quad is all about. It has made it a quieter, more contemplative but recreationally friendly space. Students are out there much more than they have been in the past. And it really says something about the nature of what a quadrangle, what the center of a campus is. We have our library, we have all of these beautiful academic buildings ringing the quad, and they're now just more visible, and the whole space comes together in new ways. We have taken a big circular driveway away from the front of the Acopian Center and Watson Hall and replaced it with a beautiful quadrangle as well, Anderson Courtyard. So we've made some changes. My focus was on beautifying the spaces between the buildings on this campus because they are inherently beautiful anyway. 5 or 6 years ago, we completed work on O'Neill Plaza, which is just here to the south of Colton Chapel, and it's a beautiful space as well. So those kinds of areas have been accomplished. We added 2 residence halls to the campus, both thoughtfully designed with student input so that these are spaces the students want to live in. Grossman House, which is an adjunct and connection to the Oxley Center for Global Education, where students live in that building who are interested in global themes and global issues, whatever they're majoring in. It is also the nicest residence hall at the college. If you have a chance to visit it sometime, I can assure you it will not remind you of your college days. And 512 March Street, which was a dilapidated old apartment building that was a blight on the landscape. We tore it down and we built a student apartment building, which is actually designed as much with student input as anyone else, and they're really thrilled to be there, and it's a much nicer addition to the College Hill neighborhood. So between all of those initiatives, we have changed the face of our campus in ways that I think will endure. Athletics, I mentioned this one before. We have made investments in facilities that I think are significant. The last piece of that is the work that's going on now in the Kirby Sports Center, so that by September, our arena for basketball and volleyball will look more like our peers in the Patriot League, and it will be worthy of the programs we place within them. It will also be more comfortable to sit in them if you're coming to watch an event. We're very pleased to be able to get that done. We have also, of course, done the major complex on Fisher Field with Berger Varsity Football House and the stands and the scoreboard and all of that. We built K-Mine Varsity House out at Metzger Field. We built Morrell Field House out at Metzger Field. We restored and renovated the baseball field and the softball field and the soccer field. The only facility we haven't yet been able to work on is Rappel Field for field hockey and lacrosse, and that's next. But I'm very proud of the fact that those facilities are now up to the state of the art and commensurate with our commitments to athletics. As many of you know, I also inherited when I arrived a very difficult issue around athletic scholarships and the place of Lafayette in the Patriot League. Those issues were, I thought, when I first naively arrived, ones that could be deferred for a few years. And the first thing I told the board was, I really don't want to deal with those yet. I'm kind of new here, so let's defer them for 3 years. And the board said, okay, whatever. And after about 3 weeks here, I realized that would be idiotic. The issues were too difficult, they were too divisive, people were upset about them, and we were struggling in an area in which 25% of our students participate, and many of them choose Lafayette to come to do athletics and academics at a high level, and we were failing them. So we took on those issues, and they weren't just, should we give scholarships in basketball? They were much more complicated. They were, what should Lafayette's role be with regard to commitment to athletics for an institution with our academic aspirations? And we resolved those issues over the course of several years, and I would say it wasn't as smooth a process over the years as one might have liked, but we got through in the first year the question of basketball scholarships, and then over the next several years we took on scholarships in other sports, and then finally football, which was in many ways more challenging. But at the end of the day, we were able to achieve a result that everyone can live with, that puts this issue behind us, that allows us to compete effectively in a league that is exactly the right place for Lafayette. I'm very proud of the Patriot League and what it accomplishes. Its steadfast commitment to academic excellence and high levels of competition is completely commensurate with the Ivy League and worthy of our aspirations. I just came back yesterday from 2 days with the Patriot League President's Council, and every time we meet, the amount of time the president spent talking about academics is really impressive. That's what we talk about. Are we accomplishing all of the goals off the field that allow us to be proud of what we accomplish on the field? So I think we had to make those commitments to scholarships in athletics because they are the right thing over the long term for the school within the Patriot League. And I'm confident we can manage those investments in ways that's commensurate with our academic investments and that holds everyone accountable to the standards that define our institution and the league. So we work through those, and it is my hope that they will not be major issues for my successor. We can be proud of our athletics programs, we can be proud of our facilities, and we can recruit students to come to this college knowing they will graduate on time with all of the preparation for a life that we want our students to have, with the benefit of athletic experience that will also serve them well in the years ahead. And that's something we can all be proud of. And we lead the nation in those kinds of metrics. I talked a little bit about Easton. We have worked hard to build our partnership with Easton. It pays dividends for the college in myriad ways, some obvious, some less obvious. I would point out, for instance, the ways in which our students and faculty and staff participate in the life of our city is comprehensive and of enduring value to everyone. Our students volunteer all over the city. They participate in all kinds of ways that helps them to do the work they do here as well. And the goodwill in both directions, I think, serves the college's interests extremely well. When we have capital projects, or we need to put in a parking lot, or we need to do something that's not in the zoning books, they are always willing to support our arguments because they trust us. And that is not true for many colleges and universities around the country. I'm very proud of that relationship. It's an exceptionally strong one, and it will continue. I'm almost done. Information technology. There's no question in my mind, and I know that President Byerly will talk to you about this next year, that there are 2 or 3 major drivers of change in higher education today. One of them is surely the economic model, and can we sustain our investments in excellence in an environment where we no longer have the capacity to price or raise funds or spend money the way we have historically. We have to deal with that. But the other one, which is even bigger, in what ways is technology going to drive change across the spectrum of institutions in the United States? There are 4,600 colleges and universities in the US. Some of them will be fighting for their survival in the next 5 to 10 years, in large part because of those 2 challenges. We have an opportunity to be better because of those challenges, because we can surmount them and use them as an opportunity for excellence. And one way to do that is to think carefully about how technology can help us do what we do the way we do it better, which does not mean that we buy massive open online courses from the University of California and have our students sit in a classroom. That's not at all what we mean. But there are all kinds of ways that technology can be innovative for us and drive our mission to a higher level. But to do that, we need a platform and an infrastructure and a commitment to technology that is state-of-the-art, and we now have that. When I arrived on Lafayette's campus 8 years ago, I said to the people, I had one of these things, and I said, I'd like to get set up. It was a little bit older, a little bit bigger, and the technology people said, we don't handle those here, we don't do them. You're gonna have to find another way to communicate. And I said, no, you're gonna have to find another way to communicate because this is the world we're entering. Our infrastructure 8 years ago was rudimentary, and it was not state-of-the-art. It is now. We're a national leader in small colleges in terms of our management of technology, the quality of our staff, the facilities that we have, and that allows us to do things at a level of innovation and excellence that our peers can't do, and I'm very proud of that. We made very significant, I'm moving here through my list. Look, I'm catching up on 8 years here, so I'm almost done. We also made a very significant commitment to try to bolster the market perception of Lafayette. All of us who love this institution know that it isn't as well known as it should be, or as well appreciated for the value it provides as it should be. So we made very significant commitments to tell that story better, to be sharper, to be more focused, to be a bit more out in the market. And all of the leading schools do that. It isn't something we do that others don't do. I'm an alumnus of Yale University, and I get something from Yale almost every single day, certainly 3 or 4 times a week, because they need to be sharp. We all need to be sharp. And what we have done is we've transformed our website. I hope you appreciate that it's a better website. We have nicer, smarter publications. Those are the kinds of basic things we have done. But we've also developed new programs. For instance, the speaker series we had this spring, where we were able to bring to campus 3 world-leading people who could talk to our students and engage our community in ways that was really impressive. Jimmy Carter, Tony Blair, and Jane Goodall. Over the course of the last several years, we've done that a lot, and those initiatives have brought us visibility, but also real value in the educational experience. We have had conferences here, like the one on higher education last year, that creates a venue for the college presidents. 100 college presidents came and spent 3 days on our campus participating in discussions about the future of higher ed. And that Lafayette conference is now something that people remember. A book is coming out about that. These are all things that will help create the perception and the reality that Lafayette is a leading institution around these kinds of issues. So we have changed the market perception in significant ways. And as a result, we have seen higher levels of applications to the college in the last several years than ever in our history. The quality level is getting higher, the selectivity level is getting higher, but so too is diversity. Geographic, racial, ethnic diversity across the board. We have more international students. We have almost every state in the country represented here. Our reliance on the core geography of the 3 states is less and less significant to the overall profile of our college. We're beginning to look more and more like the leading colleges in the country in terms of the character and demographics of our enrolled students. And that's important, particularly in an environment that's getting more and more competitive and challenging. Those who will win in this future phase are the institutions that can innovate, that are self-confident, and that believe that they're producing quality, and so too does the marketplace. And I think we're doing those things. We have taken on some very significant issues in student life. And as all of you know, we have struggled with those. We have had alcohol issues that have been very, very challenging for all of us. 1 year ago, we lost Everett Glenn, a rising freshman, to acute ethanol intoxication. And we have taken that lesson seriously to step up our commitment to working with our students so they understand what the implications are of their behavior. And I think we have had real progress. But this is a national issue. We all struggle with it at institutions around the country. We have continued to struggle with it, and we will continue to work on that issue as well. We have dealt with Greek organizations in ways that hasn't always been optimal. It has never been my intention to create antipathy or adversarial relations with our alumni or with our students. But the overarching objective of the board and the administration has been to drive excellence at the institution and make sure that everything we do is commensurate with those commitments. I think we're finding our way with Greek organizations now. We're working in partnership with the students as closely as we ever have. They're supportive of these initiatives. They're performing at the levels we've asked them to. Their academic achievements are commensurate with the student body as a whole, and I'm proud of that. I think the way forward with them will be positive, and I think that would be an important achievement for us so that we can all be rowing together. Financially, my last point. These are enormously difficult times for institutions like ours for the reasons I mentioned before. We must find a way to develop a new model for funding higher education in America that allows us to continue to be innovative, to invest in excellence, but to be sustainably affordable. And that's a real challenge. We have a view of that here at Lafayette that I think is right. We have a state-of-the-art facility or approach to this. We have the best people, and we are very tuned into what's happening in the marketplace. And I think we'll be well positioned to compete effectively regardless of what happens. And I can't tell you what's going to happen. I don't know. Nobody knows. So the question isn't what's the answer. The question is how closely are we focusing on our goals? How clearly do we understand what's going to make us excellent in a competitive environment? And how prepared are we to modify what we do to keep up with changes in the marketplace, including financial changes? And the answer to all of those is I think we're very well positioned. So I think we're ready for that. The board has been completely in partnership with the administration on this, and we'll move forward together. As a result of all of those things, we have done very well in raising funds for the college. The American model of higher education at Lafayette and at Harvard is built on co-investment in excellence. Tuition covers a portion of the cost of what it takes to provide this experience for a student. The rest of the money comes from grants, from foundations and the government, and especially from philanthropic support from alumni and friends. And we have seen co-investment from our alumni and friends through very successful fundraising initiatives, which means they believe that what we're doing are the right things. And that is crucial to our success in the future. If we don't have your support, and I'm not only talking about financial support, but your investment, your engagement, your care, we'll never be able to accomplish the goals we have for us. So I'm very pleased that I think we're doing all the right things. I have enjoyed being president of Lafayette enormously. It has been a life experience I will never forget. My children were raised here. I'm a member of this community. I have spent 8 years of my life here. I will stay connected to Lafayette in fundamental ways, but I look forward to see the years ahead and to how this institution will prosper, and I know that it will. So I'm happy now to stop talking and to take questions, if there are questions, and talk about whatever you'd like. You don't have to have questions. Yes, Lim.
Yeah, where's the global building going to be?
Right out this door, down the stairs, to the left, just next to Zeta Psi. And we have, I think it's on the web, that you can see the design work that was done for the Oxley Center. It's a really beautiful building, and the architects have worked hard to fit it into that space. So it kind of looks a little bit like Zeta Psi, but it looks like an academic building. It's really nicely situated, but it's right there. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes, sir?
Yes, I remember the class of 1961, when we had our when we had our commencement, the speaker was Congressman Judd, a very conservative congressman from the Midwest. I hear recently that all the commencement speakers of large colleges and small colleges, almost all of them are not conservative speakers, they're all liberal. And you have been talking about the various kinds of people that come to speak. I must admit, I'm ignorant about what has been happening at Lafayette, but do we have a diverse set of opinions about politics, life in general, or do we only have a left-leaning agenda? Tell me about it.
Yes, that's a very good question. And the honest answer is that in higher education in America today, it is much more friendly to liberal points of view than to conservative ones, and that these environments are not nearly as tolerant and open to all views of the political spectrum as they should be. I think Lafayette is better than many in this front. That is to say that whoever people bring forward to speak, there's an audience for them and there's respectful response to them. But we have, if you follow these things as I do, there are many colleges where that does not happen. It happened at Swarthmore this year. Their commencement speaker was shouted down by the students before he ever arrived. He was a member of the Bush administration, and because he had supported the Iraq War, he wasn't welcome on the campus by some students. So he said, "It's your day. I'm not coming. I don't need that." And he didn't come. We struggle with this generally. I think we tend to have on our campus people to speak who are suggested by students and faculty, and some by the administration and me. And we have had some conservative speakers. We had Ben Carson as our commencement speaker a few years ago, who is the neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins. But it's not balanced. There's many more liberals and Democrats on our campus than there are Republicans and conservatives generally. And that's something we need to keep an eye on. But it is part and parcel of the American moment in higher ed, I have to say. Which is not I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a thing. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Now, you talk a lot about growth going on in college, and some of it is very intriguing. Do you have a number, do you have an ideal student size for this college that you're aiming at after spending 8 years here? Is there a number there or not?
There is not yet a number there, and truthfully, as most of you know, the size of the college is larger today than it was when you were a student here, and could be significantly larger. Most of that growth has not been thoughtfully planned over the long term. That is to say that we didn't say in 6 years we're going to get to this size. We just made incremental decisions for various reasons. The college is now talking about this. We've been talking about this with the board over the last 2 years, and Allison Byerly will be working on this as well. For the reasons I mentioned earlier, having to do with competitiveness, economies of scale, and just supporting the kind of infrastructure we have here generally, we want to look at the size of the college. I hold the view that we would benefit from being a little bit larger. Not a lot larger, but a little bit larger. And we do have the room on our campus to accommodate the students. That is to say, we could do it well. We wouldn't do it if we couldn't do it well. We wouldn't do it if we had to dilute or diminish the quality of the experience for anybody. But it ought to be something that's talked about thoughtfully, deliberatively, and over the long strategic term, and not incrementally. And that's something the board's looking at now. Yes, sir.
July 2nd, when you're no longer part of this faculty, do you think Lafayette should become a university?
Do I think it should become a university? I don't. I think, and what that means to me is, should we have graduate programs? The difference between a college and a university is whether you have graduate programs. Unless you're Dartmouth, they don't care about taxonomy. They have graduate programs, they still call themselves a college. But most places. I think that Lafayette's best chance, and it's an excellent chance, to continue to be a powerful force for good in higher education and an enduring monument to excellence, is to focus on undergraduate education the way we do it, at least for now. And 10 years from now, maybe there's a different approach. It is not obvious to me that we can provide graduate programs at a level of excellence commensurate with our own sense of ourselves that adds real value in the higher education marketplace today. But no one in the world does a better job of educating undergraduates than the best small colleges in the US. We are the gold standard, and Lafayette is in that category. And I think again, there are 4,600 colleges in the United States and thousands more around the world. I'm talking about the top 50, 75 colleges, something like that, that do this. And we are continuing to get better and better and more distinctive at that. I think we should stick with our knitting and do that. And then let that conversation be, held at the end of President Byerly's term. Maybe there's a different view. But in my view at this time, I think that we should stay that course. Yes, sir. In the white shirt with a tie. Because you have a tie, I'm picking you first.
What is
John.
the class size of the incoming class?
It is about 630. Is that right, Greg? There are experts in the room, so I want to make sure I have that exactly right. 600. How many first-year students will be arriving in the fall? About 630.
As a AAR for Lafayette, that's an alumni admissions rep, one of the things that I tell the prospective students is that when I went to Lafayette, they had a class size, or a class of 2,500 in each class. And the class size today is a little more than 500 in each class because Lafayette doesn't want to get bigger, it wants to be the best. And that's a great thing to tell.
I think that's exactly right, that our commitment is to excellence, our commitment is to sustainable excellence, and then the question is we solve for enrollment size as a result of those commitments.
As another comment, Ben Carson on the Bill O'Reilly show last week, they have mentioned him as a candidate for president of the United States.
Yes, I've heard those comments. I've known Ben Carson for a long time because I used to work with him at Johns Hopkins. He's an impressive guy. He writes books. He saves lives. He's never run anything. So, God bless him, but the United States is a little bit of a complicated place to run. So who knows? Maybe he will be our president. He has great virtues. But there we are. Are there other questions? Yes.
As a school that was founded with the Presbyterian faith, what do you foresee as the role of religion and faith in terms of shaping our community of students, faculty, relationship with the community?
Well, we are indeed tied to a tradition of being a Presbyterian institution, although I would say what that actually means on the ground today is more formal than anything else. But we have a very strong commitment through our chaplain and other programs. We have a religious studies department to making sure that students everyone on our community has the opportunity for a rich and fulfilling religious experience here. We have chapels of all sorts. We have interfaith chapels. We have we have a whole host of initiatives that make for a very welcoming community. Because we've become a much more diverse community than over time than we were in the past, we need to be more sensitive to the needs of all of our students from all over the world. And I think we do an excellent job of that. Our baccalaureate program, the baccalaureate ceremony on commencement day is a good example of what that means. And I hear only positive things from our students about that they feel supported, that they feel like they're in a community that allows for that diversity. So it's done in that way, and I think we do it in a good way. Yes, sir.
I've read that males are finding college less of an opportunity for the future. And that may not be a problem for Lafayette with its high scholarship bill. What is the effect of that on education in the future?
You're talking about, did you say men, males? It's like, yeah, sure. That men are finding college less of an opportunity than women are. Is that the gist of your question? And what does that mean for places like Lafayette? I think those shifting demographics are real. There are all kinds of shifting demographics, that more and more women are coming to colleges. That's certainly true. They're not all, but a lot of them are smarter than the men, I'm just saying. And we will be a majority non-white population by mid-century among college-age students, even sooner by 2040. So it means that the whole shape and character of our enrollment of students will look different than it does today. I think that's less of an issue for highly selective institutions like Lafayette than it is for other schools. We will have received almost 7,000 applications to come to Lafayette this year in a class of 630, something like that. We are an enormously selective institution, and one reason why that's a good thing, it's not so that we can say no to 5,000, 6,000 students, but it's that it allows us to craft a learning environment and to select students that complement each other in ways that makes it a richer environment. And therefore, those shifting demographics will be less urgent for us, because there's still plenty of men who want to come to Lafayette who are really outstanding students. But schools that are lower in terms of selectivity and that struggle with these issues have a different problem. They won't be able to enroll balanced classes the way we can. But I don't see any issue with regard to us in the future on that issue. Maybe one or two more questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like some information on the ROTC program, where it's gone, where it's been, and I believe we're still a grant college, is that true? And do we get any subsidies from the U.S. government for our ROTC program?
Our ROTC program is affiliated, it's actually done on the Lehigh campus, but we have several students a year who participate in the program, and they get all the benefits of being an ROT student participant. So it isn't a large number of students, but it is here, and every year we graduate them and we give them awards for their performance along with other students on our campus. But there's not a large enough, there haven't been probably in more than a decade, enough students to mount an independent program on our campus, so they do that at Lehigh. Yes, on the aisle.
What is the future of Greek life at the college? Do you see it getting better, worse, about the same?
Oh, it's getting better. There's no question it's getting better. It must get better because everything's getting better. That's what the college is doing. And by that I mean safer, healthier, more enriching an opportunity for the students who participate in it to get all the virtues of the college experience we want them to get. And I think that's happening. We have been through several very difficult years where we had a Greek life study, we produced a lot of data, we began to examine all aspects of that experience. And I think we're now at a place where everyone's working together to make sure that that's true. We all agree that any student who comes to Lafayette should be entitled to partake in all of the benefits of this rich environment. And the Greek organizations subscribe to that in ways to make sure that students aren't missing out on anything because they're doing Greek life. To the contrary, it's clear that they're doing those things. So I think as long as that happens, then there will be a future for Greek life on our campus that is embraced by the trustees and the administration. But the standard is to make sure that those things are happening for any organization, because given the cost of college and the amount of kind of commitment that students make, and our mission, every student needs to have that opportunity, because 4 years go by like that, and if they don't, they'll never get it again. So we want to make sure that's happening, and I believe that is happening with Greek organizations. I've been pleased to see the progress. Okay? Great. Thanks, Dave. Thank you.